business niches with a focus on small details that make a bigger difference. I'm your moderator today. My name is Shelby Blundell. I'm a risk improvement rep with Society Insurance. Been with them since 2010, and I mostly handle the Illinois area and some Tennessee work. Today we have two presenters. Joining me is Alex Jones. And Alex, you want to say hi?
Yeah, hello everyone. Again, my name is Alex Jones. I have obtained a degree in risk management and insurance from Middle Tennessee State University. I've been with Society for a little over a year and a half now. My territory is the state of Tennessee, and I often make trips down to Georgia. So if you're down in that area, you may see me. I also have with me from Society Insurance is Brian Anderson. Do you want to say hello, Brian?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Brian Anderson, and I obtained my bachelor's degree in occupational environmental safety and health from the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. I've been in the risk control industry for 12 years, as well as being a lieutenant on my local fire department for the last 17 years. My work territory with Society encompasses southeastern Wisconsin.
Awesome. Got a great crew today, so looking forward to a good webinar. As with everything these days, have to have the legal part, the little disclaimer that we have on here. Just take a quick read through. We are also in the age of remote working, so we're working from 3 different states from our home offices. So if there's a technical glitch or maybe a puppy dog barking or something, please bear with us. But hopefully the dogs will take their nap and leave us alone. Alex, you want to tell them what we're going to be learning today?
Yeah, here's what we're going to cover today. We are going to use this webinar to help educate the owners and operators about solid fuel cooking, the hazards and safety controls for these cooking appliances. And we'll also review solid fuel installation, maintenance, and cleaning requirements. So let's get started. The main hazard when cooking with solid fuel is creosote. So what is creosote? Creosote is made up of condensed volatile gases created in incomplete combustion of wood. Wood smoke mixes with water vapor from the cooking and forms creosote. Creosote clings to the interior of the cooking appliances and the exhaust system ductwork. Creosote is highly combustible and is well known for its fire threat in the chimneys of wood-burning fireplaces. So if you've ever been around a wood-burning fireplace, you may already know what creosote is. Creosote's flash point, which is the lowest temperature at which vapors will ignite when given an ignition source like a spark or a flame, is surprisingly low at only 165 degrees Fahrenheit. All it takes to ignite creosote in hoods, filters, and ductwork is a spark, burning flame, or even a flame that raises the creosote temperature to 165 degrees. Creosote's auto-ignition point, the lowest temperature that the creosote will spontaneously ignite without an external source of ignition, is 451 degrees Fahrenheit. As many of you already know, that grease in commercial kitchens is the primary source of fuel for most kitchen fires. So whenever you combine creosote and grease, it becomes easier to ignite and burns hotter than creosote alone. These creosote and grease mixture fires will start quickly and spread rapidly. Therefore, it is important to maintain and clean all cooking appliances, filters, and hood systems. So how do we reduce creosote fires? Well, as you know, solid fuel cooking appliances produce spark and embers, some of which you may travel upwards into the hood system. When using solid fuel appliances, spark arresting baffle filters are required. Spark arresters have a special system that catches the spark or ember before they enter the baffle filter and the ductwork. Failure to have spark arresting filters can result in a fire as the spark or ember land on grease and other products in the baffle filter or ductwork. Before we get too far into the webinar, let's point out some different types of solid fuel cooking. So this first appliance is a wood fire grill, and that in this application was primarily used for cooking burgers or grilled chicken sandwiches. This appliance is UL listed and uses wood logs as the fuel. Aside from missing the lid, the metal container in the picture is a great example for proper ash disposal. We'll get more into the methods of proper ash disposal later in the webinar. It's just something I wanted to point out. This is another style of wood fire grill. It also uses wood logs as a source of cooking. There is not a whole lot of difference in this model and the one in the previous slide, but just another example of a UL listed unit. This restaurant cooked really beautiful steaks on this grill, so I wanted to include it in the webinar. All right, so this is probably one of my favorite solid fuel appliances. It's a charcoal oven. This is a UL listed unit that has a combustion chamber just below the oven racks. This restaurant primarily used this unit for assortment of vegetables. At the time I was looking at this unit, the restaurant was cooking broccoli that had some char on it that gave it a unique smell of charcoal but appeared to be tender and looked really delicious. All right, this is probably one of the more unique units I've encountered. It's the only one I have really looked at of this style. This is a professionally manufactured unit that is open hearth. It was built into the restaurant to NSF standards. On each side of the unit, a fire is started and the racks can move up and down to adjust the temperature for whatever you're cooking. This unit is required to have a quick access to a water hose due to the combustion chamber being larger than 5 cubic feet. And now I'll get more into why that's important later on in the webinar. This is probably the most common solid fuel unit that I've ran into while I've been out in the field. These units can make really great pizzas. They also use a hybrid of a wood log and a gas as its fuel source. And then that will bring us to our first poll question. I'm going to throw it over to Shelby.
All right. Get everybody thinking just a little bit, see where everybody is on the subject. Which of these are an example of authority having jurisdiction? Is it A, fire inspector and fire marshal, B, building inspector, C, insurance carrier, or D, all of the above? Got a lot of answers coming in. Give it just a little bit here. Got about 75% of people have voted. If you haven't, click away. All right. I'm going to go ahead and close it because most people have voted. And it looks like people are saying about 65% are saying all of the above. What is your answer, Alex?
The correct answer is D, all of the above. The authority having jurisdiction is an organization responsible for enforcing the codes of the local government and or the underwriting requirements of your insurance carrier. At the local government level, this includes code enforcement departments such as, say, a fire marshal, a building inspector, and the electrical inspector. And for an insurance carrier, their safety or risk control department would be classified as the authority having jurisdiction. So what are the standards that should be followed when installing a solid fuel appliance? NFPA 96 is the standard from the National Fire Protection Association that provides fire safety requirements intended to reduce the potential fire hazard of public and private commercial cooking operations. More specifically, NFPA 96, Chapter 14, Solid Fuel Cooking Operations, provides the safety requirements for solid fuel cooking, and that includes exhaust venting, location of appliance, air movement, fire extinguishing equipment, procedures for inspections and cleaning, the maintenance of the appliance, as well as the minimum safety requirements for fuel storage, handling, and ash removal. In conjunction with NFPA codes, the manufacturer provides installation standards that should be followed. The manufacturer installation instructions are sent with new appliances or can be obtained from the manufacturer if you purchase a used solid fuel appliance. They must be followed for the safe operation of the appliance and to prevent solid fuel cooking fires. So who should install your solid fuel cooking appliances? What you may be thinking right now. The installation standards are complex and very important, so you should never try to install a solid fuel cooking appliance on your own. You want to select a contractor who services and installs commercial cooking equipment per NFPA 96 codes. They know the standard and will make sure the installation meets the standards. So where can you find these contractors? First, I would contact the manufacturer of your cooking appliance to get a list of installation contractors in your area, or you can simply complete an internet search for contractors who install commercial cooking equipment. However, most manufacturers do have a list of contractors they will recommend to you. Combustible construction within 3 feet of the sides or 6 feet above solid fuel cooking appliances must be protected in a manner acceptable to the authority having jurisdiction. This means appliances should be installed where there is at least 3 feet of space between the appliance and any combustible walls and 6 feet above the appliance and any combustible ceiling. Solid fuel cooking appliances that have been listed for zero clearance to combustible on the bottom and sides have an approved hearth extending 3 feet in all directions from service doors are permitted to be used on combustible floors. Solid fuel cooking appliances that are specifically listed for less clearance to combustible are permitted to be installed in accordance with the requirements of the listing and the manufacturer's instructions. So where can you find the clearance requirements for your solid fuel appliance? The manufacturers list clearance requirements in the owner's manual and on the metal placard, often on the back of the unit. The metal placard also houses other information such as the model and unit number of the solid fuel appliance. Another important way to protect your business and employees is to safely ignite your solid fuel. It is important to not use flammable liquid to ignite the solid fuel. Flammable liquids can result in fire flare-ups and can burn the person lighting the fire or catch combustible materials in the surrounding area on fire. Instead, use a safer alternative, such as matches with dry kindling, or if your appliance has a built-in gas flame, use that. Additionally, if fuel must be adjusted, use long-handled tongs to add or move fuel around to adjust the temperatures. Now that you have safely ignited your fire, let's talk about extinguishing equipment. All solid fuel appliances that produce grease vapors and have fireboxes of less than 5 cubic feet need to have a minimum of a 1.6 gallon Class K or a 2A water spray rated fire extinguisher within 20 feet of the solid fuel appliance. The solid fuel appliance needs to have its own fire extinguisher. Therefore, if you have another cook line, you will have to have at least 2, one for the cook line and then one for the solid fuel. In addition to having a fire extinguisher, solid fuel appliances that have fireboxes that are greater than 5 cubic feet should be protected by a water hose with enough length to reach the appliance. That brings me back to my point on the open hearth unit showed earlier. It had to have a water hose installed to be able to reach the fire. The reason why hose protection is important is because unlike gas or electric cooking, there is no way to shut off the fuel source. That is where the water hose comes into play. The hose will provide a continuous water supply to help extinguish the fire. Getting into hood requirements for solid fuel. So what type of hood system do you need for a solid fuel cooking operation? Solid fuel units should be covered by a Type 1 hood system equipped with spark arresting baffle filters. For solid fuel cooking operations, their hood should be separate from all other exhaust systems, meaning that the solid fuel unit's hood system should have its own ductwork and exhaust cap. Additionally, the solid fuel unit should be the only cooking appliance under this hood. Solid fuel appliances cannot share a hood system with another cooking appliance. All right, so that'll go into our next poll question. I'm going to throw it back to Shelby.
All right, time to make you think again. Hopefully you got a good cup of coffee with some caffeine. How often should the exhaust and ductwork covering a solid fuel cooking appliance be inspected by a qualified contractor? Is it A, annually, B, semi-annually, C, quarterly, or D, monthly? I always get a lot of questions about this when I'm out in the field because it gets very confusing when we got different kinds of cooking going. Give it just a second here. Answers are rolling in. Got about 80% so far. So if you haven't picked, go right ahead. All right. I'm going to go ahead and close it out. Looks like this one's got a lot of split thoughts on it. So, Brian, do you want to tell them what the answer is?
Surely. The answer is actually monthly, the D choice. The exhaust and ductwork covering the solid fuel cooking appliance should be inspected monthly by a qualified contractor. If the inspection reveals a buildup of creosote and/or grease, then the contractor should continue with cleaning the hood ductwork or piping. And on the next slide here, you'll see a chart from NFPA that kind of goes over that. So it breaks down the requirements based on your cooking apparatus. NFPA, this is out of NFPA 96. The entire exhaust system, including vent piping, shall be inspected for grease buildup by a properly trained, qualified, and certified person acceptable to the authority having jurisdiction and in accordance with this table shown on the slide. If, upon inspection, the exhaust system is found to be contaminated with deposits from grease-laden vapors, the contaminated portions of the exhaust system shall be cleaned by a properly trained and qualified and certified person. A properly trained, qualified, and certified person is often interpreted to be a commercial exhaust system cleaning contractor who has knowledge of and the ability to comply with NFPA 96 standards. The pictures above are some great examples of exhaust systems that are overdue for cleaning. In this instance, the hood system was servicing an open hearth wood fire grill. As you can see, the grease and creosote have begun dripping onto the heating and air unit that is located beneath the exhaust cap, making this well overdue for hood cleaning. Next, we're going to talk about some daily cleaning requirements. They can be found in your cooking appliances owner's manual. These can include draining any grease present from after each cooking cycle, removing and cleaning racks, grates, and other items with commercial food service detergents, and wiping down any and all exposed stainless steel using a mild cleaning solution. Just your basic cleaning. Another poll question here for you.
One last question. How often should ash be removed from the cooking appliances? Would it be after each cooking cycle, or B, daily, C, every other day, or D, weekly? It seems like so far everybody's got a kind of agreeing on one answer, but now it's starting to split up a little bit. Give it just a little bit longer here. All right, looks like most people are saying B, daily. Brian, what's your answer on that?
Well, this is a little bit of a trick question because there's actually two correct answers. Both A, after each cooking cycle, and B, daily, are correct. This goes back to the owner's manual where it actually will specify for that. NFPA says a minimum of daily, but if the owner's manual states after each cooking cycle, that is what you would have to revert to. So you just got to check that manufacturer's manual and take a look at that. As we previously stated, ash should be removed at a minimum of once per day or more frequently, depending on the manual. Remove all remaining wood, ash, and hot coals from the cooking area. Make sure you're using heat-resistant gloves while handling the wood chip boxes, ash container, and ash removal tools. Place the ash, wood, and coals in a non-combustible corrosion-resistant pan and spray it with water. A non-combustible corrosion-resistant pan should be kept nearby specifically for this purpose. Once the wood and ash have been sprayed, place them in a heavy gauge container with a tight-fitting metal lid. We're looking for a minimum of a 16-gauge metal with a capacity not to exceed 20 gallons. This container must be used for this one purpose and must be able to be handled easily by an employee assigned to the task and must pass easily through any passageway to the outside of the building. The container should always be covered when it is being moved through the premise. When any holes occur in the container from corrosion or damage, the container should be repaired or replaced immediately. The ashes should be carried to a separate heavy metal gauge or dumpster outside the premise. That would be used exclusively for the purpose of hot ash storage. Never empty ash or coals into a common trash dumpsters. Embers from ash and coals can ignite materials resulting in a fire. If your business only has one dumpster, all the above steps should take place plus soaking the ashes for a minimum of 24 hours before placing the cold ash into a dumpster. So does anyone see anything wrong with these pictures? As we've been talking about, a metal container, the one on the left shows the proper metal container with a lid that securely fits on it, and it can be stored outside. The picture on the right shows a thin serving pan that is not appropriate gauge metal, does not have a lid, and is being stored indoors. This could easily lead to a fire or even a workers' compensation injury. Now we're going to discuss some weekly cleaning requirements. These include removing and thoroughly cleaning the kitchen baffle filters. The baffle filters must be cleaned at a minimum of once per week. There are times baffle filters may be needed to be cleaned as often as daily, such as when kitchens are cooking large amounts of proteins like burgers and steaks. We're going to be scraping the combustion chamber clean so it's back to its original service and inspecting for deterioration and defects. Removing and cleaning any product door latches. Inspecting door and firebox door gaskets. Inspecting the flue and removing any residue or creosote. And repair or replace any broken pieces of the cooking appliance. These weekly inspections can keep your solid cooking appliances running in tip-top shape and consistently putting out quality food. In addition to the daily and weekly, there are some annual inspections and service also required. NFPA 96, Chapter 11.7.2 states that inspection and servicing of the cooking equipment must be made at least annually by a properly trained and qualified contractor. Inspection requirements and checklists are often found in your solid fuel appliances owner's manual. Talking about fuel storage now, obviously most of these solid fuel cooking appliances require some sort of fuel. So only 1 day's supply of fuel should be kept in the same room as the solid fuel cooking appliance per NFPA 96, Chapter 14. Solid fuel should not be stored within 3 feet of any cooking appliance. Both of these rules are to reduce possible fire hazards due to sparks generated from burning solid fuel. What if you have more than 1 day's supply of fuel? Well, that's a very common thing that we see, and it is acceptable to store your over 1 day's worth supply of fuel in the building if your sprinkler system allows it under NFPA 13. This must be a design in the sprinkler system itself to have that ability to cover fuel of that magnitude. It is also okay to place it against a masonry exterior wall or outside the building at least 10 feet away. Solid fuel piles require fire protection. There are 3 approved protection methods, and they are 1, 1.6 gallon Class K or 2A rated fire spray rated extinguisher. It needs to be within 20 feet of the solid fuel piles, as long as the fuel pile does not exceed 5 cubic feet in volume. As a reference, 5 cubic feet is similar to the size of a large residential chest freezer that you might have in your house. 2, a sprinkler system that meets NFPA 13, or 3, where acceptable to the authority having jurisdiction, a fixed water pipe system with a hose that has an adjustable nozzle that is capable of reaching all parts of the area with water spray. All right, so let's recap. The main hazards of solid fuel cooking are fire and creosote. Proper installation of solid fuel appliances can help reduce the fire hazard. Exhaust systems and ductwork covering the solid fuel cooking appliance require monthly inspections and cleaning if necessary. To reduce the amount of creosote in a solid fuel appliance, daily, weekly, and monthly cleaning is needed. Ash needs to be placed in a metal container with a metal lid, sprayed with water, and stored outside. And to keep any fuel greater than 1 day's worth, that must be far away from the cooking appliances.
All right, that's a lot of really good information from both of you guys. You both mentioned the owner's manuals several times throughout the webinar. That is a really valuable resource. The owner's manuals have gone through lots and lots of testing and stuff to produce those. They give you all of the guidelines, answer all of your questions. So keep the owner's manual handy for your solid fuel appliances and refer to those for anything. The manufacturer's installation guidelines and guides, they're going to be real helpful to make sure you're doing it all the right way. Authority having jurisdiction, so your fire department, your insurance company, that's what, as risk control professionals, we're always here to help. You can always reach out to any of us. We're always willing to answer questions, come take a look at things, whatever we can do to help. There's also a solid fuel white paper. The link is there, but I also attached it as a handout. So you can go to the handouts on the right side of your screen and save the PDF that I've attached on there. That has a lot of really good information. So it's really good reference. And then again, you can always go back and watch this again on the YouTube channel or societyinsurance.com. Now we'll see if there's any questions. We've had a few come in here. We'll start with, got one I think would be good for Brian. She said, where can I purchase a proper metal container for my ashes?
Yeah, metal containers with that thicker gauge metal can typically be found at local hardware stores, along with major retailers like Lowe's, Home Depot. You can even find them online on Amazon.
All right. Brian, or let's do this to Alex. Alex, who do you recommend to call when installing my solid fuel appliance? Sounds like somebody's getting ready to introduce solid fuel cooking. Who would they want to call to install it?
Yeah, I mean, it will really depend on the manufacturer. So I would always contact the manufacturer to see if they have some kind of list of contractors in your area. If that fails, you can perform some research to find a contractor in the area that installed solid fuel units to the NFPA codes. I would always suggest getting with a contractor that is familiar with the unit that you're wanting to be installed.
Okay, yeah. So, Brian, this is probably a good one for you. So, is my hood system required to be cleaned monthly if I have solid fuel cooking? I think you hit on that a little bit. Can you maybe elaborate a little?
Yeah. I guess the easiest way to answer that is the key word that was used in that question is clean. So the answer is maybe. NFPA requires that the hood systems over the solid fuel cooking lines be inspected for grease buildup monthly by the trained, qualified, and certified person, with the keyword being inspected. If the exhaust system is found to be contaminated with the grease, then that portion of the exhaust system must be cleaned.
Okay. And we got one more so far. I'll open it up to either one of you and see what your thoughts are. It says, would vacuums specifically designed for the removal of ashes be sufficient also?
I guess I'd have to have a little more context of where it's being used. I'm assuming to clean out the firebox area.
Yeah, you get into some issues with the heat of the ashes, and so that's one of them. You definitely want to make sure it's the manufacturer specifications are specifically for that kind of operation. So that would be one of them. You definitely kick back to the owner's manual on that.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
All right, cool. That is all of the questions we had come in. So with that, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I know solid fuel is kind of it's a hot topic, but it's all, I didn't mean to have a pun there with the hot topic, but it's also something that has a lot of specifics to it, the cleaning, the maintenance, and it also creates some additional unique hazards that we have to deal with. So anything we can do to help you guys prepare yourselves and make a safe operation, we love to do that. So thanks for joining us today. Be sure to go to societyinsurance.com for a lot more information. Risk Control has a lot of stuff out there for you guys to access and use anytime. Or feel free to reach out to us if you have additional questions. So thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you on the next webinar.